What is going on, Space Dog fam? Right now, I just want to give you guys a quick message before we start the podcast. We are now available on Apple Podcasts under Space Dog. That is Space DOGG. We're also available on SoundCloud and, of course, YouTube. I'd really appreciate it if you guys would give us a follow on Instagram under Space Dog Pod. That is Space DOGG Pod. Follow us on Instagram. That way you guys can kind of get a look behind the scenes, kind of see what kind of guests we're going to have on for that week, stuff like that. And that way we can really make some noise around here. I really appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate you guys clicking on this video too, and I hope you guys enjoy. Back to school, back to school.
Back to school, back to school, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool.
Shout out to Billy Madison. Remind me of this. Welcome to another episode of Space Dog, where we like to talk about funny life stories and upbringings. Today, I have a very special guest. She's a former civil rights attorney. She was recognized at the White House for her youth program, Lift While You Lead. She was named 2014 Teacher of the Year. On December 7th, 2018, she was named Educator of the Week. She's a women's studies teacher. She's a government and econ teacher. And she's very special to me because she's my old high school teacher. An inspiration to women and men all over, Miss Annie Delgado. How are we doing today, Annie?
Great. It's so great to be here with you, Mateo.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me here.
So during these quarantine times and during the pandemic, what has your routine been like? How's it with the family, the kids?
It's been a challenge, but I've worked really hard to keep my routine. So I get up at 4:30 each morning. I go and I either do a workout at home or I'll walk the creek. And then when we were in school, it was pretty much 10 to 12 hours days, 7 days a week, trying to make sure that I stayed connected with my students and balancing my daughter who was finishing up the 8th grade, had to drive through graduation, and my son who was finishing up his sophomore year. His highlight being he learned how to drive stick and he just got his license.
Oh man, congrats.
Yes.
So there was a lot of those drive-in graduations and stuff like that. How was that experience compared to, like, did you feel like it was taken from you, like kind of like that experience, like, I didn't get to see my kids walk?
You know what, there was that part of it, but we had such fun with it. We got her dream car, if you will, which is a Jeep with the top off and everything. A friend of ours had it, and
Oh, that's cool.
got it all cleaned up and put a sign on the back, and we did the drive-through, and starting to think they should do all graduations that way.
Kind of like that? All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
she's a fan of them. Did you have any birthdays during the quarantine? Did you have any quarantine birthdays?
Yes, I turned 48 on Earth Day. Earth Day is my birthday, and it was really cool because I have this phrase, everything isn't rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns. And I got a unicorn cake with butterflies on it, but they didn't have any rainbow confetti. So I missed out. The trifecta is elusive, but next year I'm going to get all three.
That's amazing. I definitely love cake. So this year is a little bit more challenging due to the pandemic. How would you say students are reacting to the online learning and kind of doing it by computers?
I think the students are feeling the same way that a lot of us teachers are, that it just isn't the same. And so there's that definite struggle. My bright side, if you will, that I looked at it for it happening during the last quarter was at least I knew the kids, they knew me, we knew how to work together. But now we're starting up on Wednesday, the group of kids who don't know me, don't know my sense of humor, or even if I have a sense of humor. And so it's just this challenge. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so it's going to be a whole new world, and I'm anxious to get back to some semblance of normalcy.
Yeah, definitely. Now the pandemic kind of hit towards the end of the school year last year, right? What happened? Like as far as like the teachers and stuff like that, how did that all go, and how did it get canceled? Did you guys get canceled early? Did you guys have to go home early?
Well, what happened, and it was really interesting. My daughter and I had flown back to New York for 24 hours on March 2nd or 3rd. We were supposed to go see a premiere back there. And so we're back there and people are talking about it, and you could start to see some shifts in New York City. But again, there were so few cases. We got back here, and then within 2 weeks, the Times Square that we had seen was completely empty. And they called for schools, I think on a Friday or on a Sunday, they said schools will be closing on Wednesday. And that was it. And you could just see it in terms of the number of students that weren't showing up, that their reality was sinking in. And that was really hard. But I think there was this part of us that we were all hoping we would come back right after spring break. And when that happened, like it just became so much more real.
Students stopped coming beforehand, like a majority, or would you say a
Yes.
majority?
Yes, I'd say,
Really?
I want to say it was like March 14th or 15th, and by the 16th or 17th, I want to say that maybe the 17th was our last day. There were just a handful of kids in each class. And
Wow.
yeah, and I think the worry was, we have students, we didn't know if they were going to have access to meals, what their home life was like. Those were the things that were worrying me. And so I was kind of like, I'll keep showing up. What do we need to do? And then they shut everything down. Yeah.
That's very looked over. That's interesting you said that about the meals. That's very looked over because as a student, I'm not saying that I was the most poverty. I did have some poverty. I wouldn't say I was the most like poor person. Sometimes I did have meals to eat, sometimes I didn't. But those times that I didn't, school meals would come in handy for me, and I did appreciate the school meals. And
Yeah.
so to see that some kids, that's their only place to eat, I did dishearten me a little bit and make me sad when I did hear that the schools were shutting down a little bit earlier, because that's the first thing I thought of. Some kids go there to eat too, you know?
Yeah.
So I
They go
definitely
there.
like,
Yeah. They go there to eat. They go there to feel safe. They go there to feel connected. So there's all these other layers to school that people often overlook, or maybe undervalue in that moment. And it isn't until they step away that they sometimes come to that understanding.
yeah, definitely. It was such an apocalyptic scene, if you could put it that way, when it was first going on, because I would go to a grocery store, I would go to a convenience store, and it was before masks were required. People were wearing masks already, and the gloves, taking the toilet paper, and going down an aisle and not being able to buy ramen. That kind of scared me, because ramen's there all the time, and all of
You're
a sudden
like,
it's
where
not.
is it at?
Yeah, so something bad. I don't know. Something not good is gonna happen,
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah, you realize what you took for granted, and you start to look at it through a different lens. And it is interesting what people went to, like they went for the toilet paper. Like there was just this lack of understanding of what was at stake and what people's needs were. Sometimes I think it highlighted strengths in human beings, and other times I think it highlighted the worst of the worst.
uh, I think you hit it right on the head right there. It was just super crazy. I remember my partner at the time. She works at a nursing place, so she was taking care of older people. Um, and she was very frightened because she said that she didn't know if she was going to get laid off or anything like that, or because she was working with older people, she was kind of scared because that's where it kind of hurts. It hurts the older
Right.
people, right? Um, and so she was just really worried, and it just sucked to see her like scared. And I was already out of work, so I was like, you know what, I'm just here, twiddling my thumbs again, and it was just crazy. It was a crazy whole kind of thing.
It was, and I think people at first were willing to do their part, and try. And I think we did a really good job. And then I think when it started to warm up and people are like, nope, it's summertime, I think they're just like a switch flipped and things started to change, which is too bad because you see the numbers going up. And I worry about my students. I worry about, if there's more than one family in the house. So I think sometimes people would be surprised what we teachers do worry about. It's not really about the test. It's not about the assignment. It's about, are you safe?
Definitely. And it just sucks to live every day, I'm a hypochondriac, and it just sucks to live every day. If I have a sore throat or if I have like a runny nose, allergies, I have COVID.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And I hate living like that.
It does, well, things that, again, something you took for granted, like I'll be out walking the creek and I'll sneeze and I'll feel really bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I'm healthy. It was just
Yeah.
seasonal allergies,
Looks so fast
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel so bad. But I don't know if we'll ever get back to that. And I was listening to a podcast, and this woman named Michelle Norris, she said, this is a critical time for us. We can either return to normal or we can reach for better. And I really hope that we use this time to reach for better and come out of it better human beings.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I really didn't see a scenario to a point where we would go back to being normal, because I feel like that's just so far away now. So I didn't know what better. I don't know, just because everything that's going on right now. It's hard to see it better, but I like to believe deep in my heart that there's going to be a better, and that we will prevail as humans, and we will be better. I hope so.
I think I have to believe that at this point, because the alternative would leave me in bed each morning. And there were mornings where I didn't want to get out because it was like Groundhog's Day, like really same thing all over again.
All over again.
Yeah. And you're looking for something different. So I get it.
Definitely. Speaking on just the government and everything right now, where do you think we stand in America, just in general, everything that's going on? Just where do you think we stand, and how do you think we can move forward?
I think the hardest thing that has happened in terms of even teaching government is trying to remind people that there's a value to listening to differing points of view. Um, I think people have become so focused on proving themselves right, and the other person wrong, that they'll sacrifice family relationships, friendships, things that really do have value in our lives just to say, I was right. And I think, again, if we're going to reach for better, then it means not everybody has to hold hands and sing kumbaya. It just means that we listen to each other. Okay, I respectfully disagree with you, but I respect you. I respect that that's your position. And in turn, I would hope that you could respect my opinion. And I think if we can take a step back and remember that everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and we may just learn something. Like if we just take that moment to listen to what somebody's saying, it's one of their life experiences that has brought them to that point. And there's a lesson to be learned there.
Do you think it's funny you said that, because I'm so conflicted on this, and do you think people are oversensitive nowadays? Because part of me does believe that people have become more oversensitive, and just you hear about it all the time, cancel culture, and people lose their jobs and their livelihood for something they did in the past. A part of me thinks that people are oversensitive, but another part of me likes to think that I'd rather be oversensitive than to be insensitive. So how do you feel about that?
It's interesting. I was doing a town hall on Wednesday, for my other job. And one of the things that I stressed was that, we look at certain representations in the media, and it's kind of this low lift. Like they buy into stereotypes, they buy into all these traditions because that's the way everything was. So that's a low lift. And I don't believe that we as a society benefit when we just cancel somebody or something, because that means we didn't demand better of them and we didn't demand better of ourselves to learn from it. And so I think that, again, what can we learn from that moment? And are we going to learn more if we simply cancel somebody? Or do we have more to grow and gain as a society if we use it as an opportunity to educate them? And if they're not willing to be educated or to learn or to grow, I mean, truly undertake that process, that's a heavy lift to do, they'll cancel themselves out. But if they are willing to, then is it something that should cost them their livelihood? And I don't think so. I think maybe that's the teacher in me. I think there's an opportunity to teach them there.
I totally agree with that. I just hate to see someone, you see it happen to comedians, actors, teachers, local teachers, just everybody. It's everyone nowadays. I was kind of scared to start this because I was afraid I'd get canceled eventually if I said something wrong.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, I think people need to understand that we don't have to agree on everything. That's all right. Respectfully disagree. I'm totally fine with that. Doesn't mean we still can't be friends.
Exactly. And I think if we can get back to that, I think it strengthens us. And I'm not saying here that if somebody is full of hate and wants to impose harm upon another, that they get a pass. What I'm saying is that we take that as an opportunity to teach, to guide, and inform. And if they're open to it, again, we're all better for it. And if they're not, that'll take care of itself in its own ways.
Absolutely. And I've always felt like, I've always wanted to hear different opinions. A lot of people, especially back in high school, you saw a lot of kids with their headphones in and stuff like that. Most of the time they're listening to music. I was listening to podcasts. I was listening to different points of view of the events that were happening during that time. So I was listening to, Joe Rogan. I was listening to, I think I heard Michelle Obama on a podcast, and she was talking about the things going on at that time. And I just like hearing different opinions because, Michelle Obama and Joe Rogan aren't going to have the same opinion. They're two different people. And if you can't really understand and take from both parts or take from different kinds of parties and be like, hey, come up with your own conclusion yourself, I think that's a disservice to yourself, honestly.
Yeah. And I think you just struck on something that's really important. It's like you should read, you should listen, you should learn and process it through your own filter. Because if you're just repeating what somebody says, that's not growth. And you're not growing as a person. You're just repeating, and so I think there is a strength to listening, filtering through the information. What do I agree with and why? What do I disagree with and why? That's where the real learning begins to take place. Yeah.
Definitely understand that. Annie wasn't always this person that's been this teacher, that's been this women's studies teacher, this champion of change. There was a humble beginning and there was a humble start. Can you take us back and explain to us what drove you to want to be a teacher and just how it all started, basically?
So it's interesting because my first career goal was actually to be the first female president of the United States.
Hey, reach for the stars, right?
Yeah. And my best friend from high school, we were talking recently, and she said, you lived your life. Like at any moment, they might, go back and uncover what you did or didn't do at a certain age. But it's funny that politics really has shaped my life and what I wanted to do. And I had a godmother who was incredibly influential in terms of women's rights and equity. But in the women's studies class, I like to throw my students for a curveball because when we talk about mean girls and what that looks like or what that means, I go, just like when I got in a fight in front of the Virgin Mary in the third grade.
They're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah, I really did. I did, yes. Over at OLM. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll take my kids by it every once in a while. Yeah, that's where I got into a fight. And,
well, why'd you fight this girl?
Well, because she was picking on a really good friend of mine, who I still speak to today. But I use that as a lesson that, you know, myself now looks back and says, wow, like you should have stayed in your own lane. Like that's something that they could have worked through on their own. But at times I tend to have this rescue others complex. And so I swooped in, and apparently it started at an early age, and I made
Uh-oh.
that happen. Yeah. But I had the chance to work in DC the summer before my senior year of high school. They offered me a job. I wanted to stay. I didn't ever want to come back to Merced. But I did. And then there was college, which was fun. And I always tell people, you could offer me $1 billion to go back to high school and I'll say no, but you offer me a penny to go back to college and I'll be there in a heartbeat.
Really, really.
Really. Yeah. It's just, you don't have as many of the hurdles, or the ridiculous hurdles, I'll say. Like, we understand, like, even as high school teachers, there's classes that we're like, we're sorry you have to take this, but we're going to try and make it the best that we can for you. But I think college was really a great opportunity for me to learn and grow. Law school was, and then teaching. I actually started doing a long-term sub for 3rd grade, and I thought that's where I wanted to be. I love high school, let me tell you. And I wouldn't look back.
Now, you actually lived in DC for 10 years of your life. That's a long time. How is it living there compared to living in Merced, California?
Let's just say every fall I go, and my husband goes, I know the falls are pretty back in DC and they're not here in Merced, they're just brown. Yes, that's true. I think that it's just this opportunity to see things and experience things. Like one time in college, we're like, oh, let's go to this Best Buddies ball. And we go there, and Wilt Chamberlain, I hope you know who Wilt Chamberlain is. I don't know if you do or not. He was giving away an autographed basketball. Okay. So he played for the Lakers, big guy.
Okay,
Whatever.
basketball
Yeah.
player. Okay.
And he's like, who am I going to give it to? So I'm jumping up and down with everybody else. And he goes, you. I'm like, me? And so he calls me up and I go, where's the stage? Just like this. And he picks me up and sets me right there. And he's like, talk to the crowd. And believe it or not, I'm an introvert, but I was like, hey, I mean,
I would have never guessed that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But you just have these unique moments, you meet unique people. And so that's why I really loved to be able to take students back there, so that way they could see things and they could have experiences that they might not be able to have. So living in Merced at times can be a challenge. But I also love the fact that you can go places and people know you. There's strengths to that at times, and there's other times where it's not a strength.
I think we fast forward a little bit. I think we kind of skipped over to where it started for you wanting to be a teacher, because we got into the fight.
Yeah, I know. It's real though.
Yeah, no, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I learned from it. But I think just me wanting to be a teacher was when I worked with these 3rd grade students. And then I took over an 8th grade class who was in a really tough situation. They'd had like 4 or 5 teachers coming through. And it was tough because my approach was very different than what they were used to. I think at first there was a part of me that did take it personal, because I was like, look, I just want you all to learn. That's why I'm here. And then I realized it's not personal. Like, they're going through their growing pains. They've got their own issues and challenges. And I love teaching. It makes me happy.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what kind of sub do you think you were, because there's so many characters, especially substitute teachers. Some of them don't care. Some of them care too much.
Yeah.
How would you describe yourself as a substitute teacher, like barely starting out?
Well, because each of my jobs was a long term when I first started. So I really got to know the kids and build a relationship with them. And I think that's easier versus like when you go into a classroom, even when you period sub for a teacher and they're like, just give the kids this and let them do that. And I'm like, but I'd really like to talk with them. I'd like to know them. And nowadays I'm like, and I'd love to tell them about the women's studies class. So maybe they'll consider taking it, do a little marketing. So it's hard. And I don't think subs actually get paid enough. because there's some really challenging instances. But I've had a number of really good subs who've done a great job of building really positive relationships with the kids.
It's funny. You did have a sub for your class this one time, and I just want to show you this picture I took.
Oh no, are they sleeping? Is that the one where they're sleeping in the corner?
Yes, yes. This dude,
I remember this.
he was fast asleep in your classroom, and
Oh my
it
gosh,
was
they
funny.
still have.
We clapped. We clapped like this, and he didn't wake up.
I'm glad he was still alive.
Oh,
Oh my
let
gosh.
me pull up this picture.
That's
Where,
hilarious. I remember that. Isn't that so funny? Like, I remember, oh my goodness.
yeah, here he
Yes,
is.
I remember this. Yeah, he needed to go home.
Yeah, he sure did. Not the best time to fall asleep in a class during the social media age.
It's not. I think it's because that chair is really comfortable.
Is it really?
Well, it's so funny because the kids are always like, "This chair's really comfortable." I'm like, "I know, that's why I try to avoid it. Otherwise, I'd never leave it, you know."
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a memory, and I wasn't even in the classroom, but I remember hearing about it.
Oh man, yeah, it was. He was asleep. I'm trying to remember what period I had you. Did I have you for fourth period?
I'm trying to think. Fourth period would have been women's. Oh wait, no, it wouldn't have been women's studies yet.
I think I did have you for fourth
I
period.
think it would have been fourth period. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Did you know that I had taken child development that year? So yeah, I took child development that year. So I before your class I had child studies, and it was funny because I was kind of teetering and tottering on whether taking a theater arts class or like child development studies. And I thought I picked the child development studies because I was like, I'm gonna be a mom. You know what? I'm gonna learn what it takes. And so like it was just funny. I don't know why I made that coordination between the fourth and third, but I think it's something I remember.
Yeah, but you know what I think is really cool, and I was thinking about this the other day as well, is that sometimes the very first time some men hold a baby is when they're holding their own for the very first time. And so like what if they were introduced to babies earlier and they would realize like that's not the mom's job, that's like a parent's job, and it's
Yeah,
nurturing, it's not mommying or whatever it might be.
yeah.
See things that I think about.
No, yeah, I totally agree. That's what I went in there and I was like, I'm gonna learn how to do a mom job. So, and I liked it, but I did learn that it's challenging. So if I do have a partner now, I tell them like, hey, I'm not ready for a kid anytime soon. I don't know what your plans are, but if a kid's in it, I don't want it
Yeah,
right now at this
yeah.
moment.
I think that's a good thing. And I think it's fair because I don't know if I said it more in the women's studies classes than in Econ Gov, but I just think your 20s really are a time for exploration, like figuring out who you are. I think it's really the only time where people are okay with you being, and when I say selfish, I don't even mean it in a bad way, but it can truly be about you.
Yeah,
And if you get married and have kids early on, that's a lot of responsibility early on. And for some people it works and for others it doesn't. Like for you, I know it didn't for me. I waited till I was 30 to get married and 32 and 34 to have my kids. I still don't know if
that's
I
the
was
thing.
ready.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing too. It's like I'm too selfish right now. I know I'm too selfish. I'm selfish for me. I'm
Mhm.
selfish for the things I want to do, things I want to see. And I'm not saying I'm a selfish person like all around, like I won't give or share. I'm just selfish in not giving time right now to someone, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard for relationship wise too because people expect perfection nowadays, perfect relationships, perfect
Mhm.
uh I think it has a lot to do with social media. Social media is just so toxic sometimes. It could be a great marketing and business tool, I believe, but just other times it's very toxic. Um, it's just people expect perfection nowadays, and it's just so crazy that that's what is expected now because I know I'm not perfect.
Right. Well, you know, and that's one of the challenges when we talk about healthy relationships in women's studies. Like, I'm not out there, I don't know these things, but they tell me about hashtag relationship goals and how these couples put things up. And I was like, but how many pictures did they have to get through to get to that one? How many fights precipitated those flowers, or that I love you so much, or that car, or like all of these different things. Um, I just think that if the relationship is good between you and your partner and you know it's good, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Is it true that you would interview couples on campus and tell them if you would re- give them advice, be like, "Hey, I don't think you guys should be together or not." Was that true? Because I heard that around the campus.
Yes, I have done that. At first, I thought we were going to say sometimes I'll see couples making out on campus and I'll run up to them and I'll go, "Are you okay? Do I need to call 911?" And they're like,
Oh man,
"What?" I'm like, "Oh, I thought you were giving them mouth to mouth. Okay, everybody's okay." And I'm like, "Come on, we don't want to see that." So
come
I'll
on,
do
man.
that. Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, I just really don't want to know." But I have seen, and it's interesting because it's people think that when I have those conversations with couples, it's because of the male is being abusive towards the female, and because it's typically, I'm trying to think if it's ever been with a same-sex couple, um, but there's more often than not, I've actually seen the young women who've been abusive towards the young men, and I just let them
Wow.
know, yeah, just as I wouldn't expect any women to put up with that, I just want you to know that you don't have to put up with it either. And then I tell them about the class, and sometimes they show up, and yeah.
Definitely, definitely. That's so crazy. I know when I heard that, I was in campus and I was like, I did have a partner during that high school period of time. Um, and I was like, yeah, I was like, I wonder, I never told her because I don't know how she would take it. But in my head, I thought, I was like, oh, I want to ask her because I just want to know if I'm mature to be in a relationship because, you never know.
You know what, you don't. And whenever we would tackle that topic, I would tell my students, I said, by the time we're done with this topic, 3 relationships in this class will come to an end. And they don't believe me, but each year, at least 3 relationships end. And sometimes it's the person who is the unhealthy one who steps back and realizes it and that they're not ready for a relationship. And sometimes it's the person who's at the receiving end and they're like, I deserve better. And they're like, don't you feel bad? And I'm like, why would I feel bad if you all recognize that you need more time to grow? Like, I think that's a good thing.
Now, being that you're a school teacher, can you, going back when you were young, do you have any funny school stories when you were younger? Maybe like you remember a certain story where you got in trouble, or maybe even when you're older and you did something bad and you knew you weren't supposed to do it.
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't, well, there was senior ditch day, which is why I always think seniors should ditch on senior ditch day. And I know that that doesn't bode well with the administration, but I think it's always hypocritical. When I just think about things that I did, I mean, just dumb things. I drove friends around. I was always the designated driver. So I drove when I didn't have a license, but I figured I'd rather something happen to me sober than something happen by getting in the car with, my friends. Um, I went to school up at Central Catholic in Modesto, and after the end of the day, we'd want to get ice cream before softball practice. We would drive anywhere from 90 to 100 miles per hour, no exaggeration, to go get ice cream over by the mall in Modesto to make our way back to school in time. When they say that the brain isn't fully developed, it's true.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that assessment. I totally agree
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that. Believe it or not, Miss Delgado, I was such a bad kid during my elementary years. I was so bad. I got in trouble every single day of my life when I was young.
Okay, I keep going back to there. I really don't believe like there's bad kids. I think you can make bad choices or poor choices that you just don't learn from the first, second, or 15th time. But I don't think that makes you a bad person.
No, I was bad. There was this one time when I was in fifth grade, so I should know right from wrong. I should know right from wrong. I'm in fifth grade, and I asked to go be excused and go to the bathroom. And in elementary, there's like the younger kids go play at a certain time and
Mhm.
the older kind of go play at a certain time. So it was like the little kids, they're running around and stuff like that. And I was on my way to the bathroom, and going to the bathroom, I see this little boy, and he's peeking in the girls' restroom. He's peeking in the girls' restroom like this, looking in there. And so I thought, hey, I'm gonna help him. So he was bending over, and I kicked him in.
Oh, Mateo.
And then as soon as I kicked him in, a teacher saw me that was on. He caught me. She's
Oh.
like, "Hey, why'd you do that?" And then I was in trouble. I don't know why that came over me, but I did it. Yeah, I was mad.
Do you know what? And here's what's so interesting, and this is like kind of something that I know it drives my kids nuts. At times it drives other people nuts, but I'm kind of like, so what happened to you earlier in the day? Or like what was going on in your life at that time? Which is again why when people are like, oh, I was bad, I'm just like, were you? Or was there just a lot of really bad stuff going on that you couldn't process? And so because you couldn't process it, this is how it came out.
No, yeah, I feel it definitely, and that could have been the reason why I did that. But I look at it now, and you know, I shouldn't have done it, but I like to think of it as like a funny memory. But I definitely wouldn't kick a kid into a bathroom again.
I'm like, oh, good. See, then you learned from it.
Yeah, definitely learn. Definitely learn. There's another time where in school, I'm telling you, I was a bad kid. There was another time, and this was in seventh grade, so I was a little bit older,
Mhm.
and I was in seventh grade, and it was math, the second period, and I would fart in class. They would be they would be silent, so it would just stink out of nowhere, and all the kids at my table, I'd fart, and then kids at my table would be like, "Do you smell that? Do you smell that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I smell that." And there's this kid next to me that's next to me. He pointed at this other kid and he's like, "You're farting, aren't you?" And this kid's like, "No, like I'm not farting." And I'm like,
Wasn't
"Yeah,
me.
he's farting. He's doing it. It's him." And he was nicknamed Stinky for the rest of the year.
Oh
I feel so,
no.
I
Oh
feel so bad.
no.
I feel so bad for that. But I just could not bring myself to say I was farting.
And yet now on a podcast, you're like, yep, that was
Oh yeah.
me.
Yeah, it was me, guys. It was me back in 2013 or 14, whatever year it was. Mr.
Oh.
Oldham's class, if you're listening, Mr.
Oh,
Oldham.
over at Hoover?
Yeah, over at Hoover.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. My daughter's a Husky. Yeah.
Oh, yep. That's the
Yep.
best middle school ever. I
She
love
loved
Hoover.
it too. She loved it too. That's too funny.
Yeah, I've been through a lot of those awkward situations, but I like to think that they made me who I am today.
There you go. See, I'm just saying. And now you can embrace farting and be okay with it.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely okay with that. Yeah, definitely. So moving on. What do you think it takes to be a teacher? And do you think that there are bad teachers in the schools nowadays, or do you think that there's a majority of good teachers? Because from personal experience, I did have some bad teachers that maybe they did have some issues going on personally, but I didn't think that they put their best foot forward as far as teaching students.
Yeah, I think that the frustrating thing for me is that when I go in and I teach, like I really do want to give it everything I had. And there was a period of time over, like about a year and a half, where I just felt like I wasn't giving it. I was digging as deep as I could, still trying to deliver. And I look at the fact that there are some teachers who brag like, oh, we get our summers off. Oh, look, I'm done at this time. Oh, this is the easiest job out there. And I'm like, if it's the easiest job out there, you're not doing it right. It should be an enjoyable job, but it definitely has its challenges. And so, do I think there are teachers who are out there for the wrong reasons or who entered the profession for the wrong reasons? Yes. Do I wish they would be held accountable? Absolutely. Um, and I don't ever want to get to that point. Like if ever I feel like I'm getting to that point, that's the time when I need to retire. If I'm not excited about seeing my students, interacting with them, learning from them. And I think that's it too. You can't go into education believing you know everything and then spending your time trying to convince your students that you know everything, because you don't.
Mhm.
Nobody does. And that's like the fun of it. I love when my students teach me something. And, I know it keeps coming back to the women's studies class, but really the concept of no judgment. Like who am I to judge you for your response or your experience? I have not walked in your shoes. And I think if more teachers would be empathetic, more teachers would be understanding, that the lives of our students are not rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns. Um, I think we'd see a lot of discipline issues go away. And I think that's the other thing I'm going to miss this year is like being able to read if a student's having a challenging day and just kind of, hey, do you want to step outside real quick? And I hate that I have to say this, and you're not in trouble, okay?
Yeah.
You're not in trouble, but
Yeah.
just,
Take
how
a
are you?
breather. All
Yeah,
right.
like, are you doing okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Um, and yeah, like I worry about that this year. Like, what if there is somebody and they don't know who I am or if they can trust me with that?
Definitely, definitely. There was this time in your classroom that really stuck with me and really made me appreciate you as a teacher. There was this time, and I don't think other teachers would have done this, but there was this time where a student was trying to make a point, and he wasn't really making sense. I didn't understand what he was saying, and a lot of the other students were understanding what he was saying either. And they were giving him faces and like kind of murmuring amongst themselves, kind of like, what is he saying? And you took it upon yourself to say, hey, let him speak, and let him say what he has to say. And the class kind of quieted down and let him spoke, even though we didn't understand. And I don't know if you understood him, but you're like, yeah, I see what you're saying. um I totally get what you're saying. And you gave him an answer to what his point was, and you gave him like a rebuttal. And that just stuck out to me so much, because I feel like, dang, she stuck her neck out, and she saw that the class was kind of getting uneasy about it, because he was kind of stammering and just, not, like I said, not making sense. And you stuck your neck out for him and said, yeah, I do understand and I do get your point. And you made his voice heard. And that just speaks volumes to you as a person. And I always appreciated that moment, and I always remember that moment.
Thanks, because that's all I want in my classroom. Um, I want my students to feel safe. I want them to know that they're valued and that I respect them. And so thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That means a lot to me. And I hope that he felt that his voice was heard as well.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
You're gonna have me in tears,
Because
Mateo.
he deserved that time. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But that's true. It's true. I don't think other teachers would have been like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I think they just would have brushed him off. But you didn't. You took a forward step to say, no, I get you. And I was like, yeah, she gets it. She loves this job. And so how can you not respect that?
And thank you for knowing I do love my job.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But I always liked it in your class, because you would always have this thing, think outside the box, have different points of views. And you did have a box that we would flip over.
Yes, you get to flip the box.
Yeah, you get to flip the box. That's always stuck with me too, that think outside the box, because I feel like there's some times I definitely needed to think outside the box and not just uh, be single, one-dimensional. I'm sorry, one-dimensional. Where did you come up with that idea for thinking outside the box? Have you always been thinking outside the box?
I don't think that I have. Or I think like I'm the youngest child, but my brother, who's older than me, he always says I act like the older child. So I don't know if it's like I'm an old soul or so. But I think it's also a reminder for me to like think outside of the box or to step outside of the box. And it falls back on that idea of, if I'm going to ask it of you, then I need to do the same thing. And so when I see all of you taking risks and getting to flip the box, it's like, okay, they've raised the bar. Now I've got to raise the bar too, and that to me is exciting because it's pushing me, and you avoid being stagnant and there's no growth taking place. But I think I've become, probably within the last, I don't even know how long, but I feel like I'm starting to take more healthy risks, little by little, because I am an introvert. I'm doing this. You have no idea.
You're at the White House and you're an introvert. That's so good. You were at the White House. Not a lot of people don't go to the White House.
It was an incredible experience, and to be able to speak there and to bring the work from Merced to Washington, D.C. Was really an incredible experience. And I have both of my kids and my husband there to see it, because they knew how important it was to me, the program and the young women and now the young men who've gone through the program. Yeah, that was definitely memorable.
Where did the idea for Lift While You Lead come from?
So my husband and I were sitting at the dinner table one night, and it had to have been a Friday or a Thursday maybe. He said, I have a feeling I know which of my students now you're going to see when you're at Yosemite High School. I was like, well, how do you know that? And he said, just kind of challenges that they're facing or behaviors that they're showing now. And I was like, okay. And then that weekend, I was like, everybody leave me alone. I'm in the room. I went to my bedroom and I sat down at the computer, and I just put like this whole idea of what would it look like if we didn't just kind of do a stop and drop by, like, oh, hey, you're great, you're empowered, now see you later, never to be spoken to again. What if it was this 5-year program where they had somebody that they could check in, who was checking up on them, who cared? And I put together this draft, and I took it to the high school district, and I took it to Merced City School District, and they were very supportive of it. And my very first group graduated this year. And one of the young women, and they were like, they graduated, they met the marks that I had hoped that they would. But one young woman in particular, when I would show up to see her at Hoover, she used to take off, like they'd have to radio, like, bring her in, and it was like, when I'm like, hey, how's it going? I mean, she just fought it. And then she went to GV, and I'd see her, I'd be like, hey, if ever you need anything, I know. And I was like, okay, I just want you to know I'm here.
Yeah.
And then she ended up taking the women's study class her junior year, her senior year. She was in my government class, and she got accepted to 4 colleges. And she was like, this is not where I thought it was going to be. And she goes, and I was such a jerk to you. And I was like, you were a 7th grader. It's all good. It's not personal, and
all good.
Yeah. And so there's stories like that within the mix that made it all worthwhile.
Were they were 8th graders when they started, or 7th graders?
So it was between their 7th and 8th grade year.
Okay.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, very much 7th graders.
Okay, 7th graders. And then all the way up to
their
high
12th
school.
year.
Their 12th grade year, right?
Yeah, they worked.
That's so amazing. As far as the program, you said that they check up on you. Like, what does the program do? So basically, do they lay out a plan for the particular student, or do they just set goals for them, daily goals, and they have to try to achieve that goal every day?
No, so it was started, and then due to budget cuts, or I don't know, maybe something that happened that, yeah, anyway, so my last group are going to be sophomores this year. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do it for 4 years, but I still see it as ongoing. Like, even when this last group graduates from high school, like, I'm still going to be keeping in touch with them. And really, during their 8th grade year, it was a weekly checkup. They would show up, I would go to their school site, Hoover or Tenaya, sometimes Rivera, sometimes Cruikshank, and just tell me what's going on, and making sure that they weren't getting in trouble. Like, if they did, they were more afraid of me getting called than their parents or their guardians, if their grades were dropping. And it was just, again, without judgment, but what's going on. And letting them realize that there was more to them than maybe they had realized, or maybe they had heard about themselves. Yeah.
That's so interesting that you started that, and it's so amazing that it became so big, and you're one of 9 people that was named champion of change. I bet that's so honorable. That is so amazing. How
It
was it going
was.
to the White House and just getting honored for that? Something that you built. You built that with a draft, just a draft,
I know.
and you brought that to the school. How does it feel?
It was amazing. And it was one of those where I really wish like that very first group could have come and could have sat there because I was representing them. And I know how excited I was, that I really do. Like, I wish they could have been there for that moment because it's surreal. You know, I'd been to the White House before, having lived in DC for 10 years, but I hadn't been to the White House before because of me. That sounds
Yeah.
really bad, but it was really exciting. And to save the things that had your name on it with the White House emblem in the back. It was just like, and to take pictures and to meet other women, the other women who were recognized as well, and build connections there. Yeah, that was a phenomenal experience.
What was it like just going like in the White House? You said you've been in there before. Going back to like your first time you went in there, and like were you like, whoa, like what's it like in there
Um, the
in the White House?
So the very first time I think I went there, it was for one of their Christmas tours, just like every other tourist. But I highly recommend it. I don't even know if they still do it. The second time, I had a friend from law school who worked there, and so we got to go in, and I got to see the Oval Office. I got to see the Resolute desk. Like, I mean, this is like the most powerful room in the world from my perspective. You know, as a government teacher and this and that. I mean, major decisions are made there.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, and I got to stand at the podium where they hold the press conferences, and that it's much, you know, it's a revised version from where I stood. But to be there where history is made, history is recorded, yeah, amazing.
That's that is so that's so amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad that you got to experience that. And I bet you feel like amazing, man. I'm so happy for you. That's such an accomplishment.
Thank you. I'm proud of it. And actually, I think that's the
You should
first
be.
time I've ever said that, believe it or not. But I really am. Like, yeah, it is a pretty surreal experience. And I knew it at the time, and I was in awe and overwhelmed at the time. But I think like just literally for the first time said, yeah, I'm proud of myself and that experience.
There's
Yeah.
definitely
You're good,
there's
Mateo.
definitely a lot of thank you, thank you. There is definitely a lot of not so great things happening on schools. Um, things that we don't know about, and it just doesn't happen at schools. It happens everywhere, and it happens to boys, girls, men, women, all the time. And it's very such a heavy subject. But there was an incident back in 2017 that you had gone through with one of your coworkers, and this is public news, so you can read it. You have to look it up. But after that whole incident, how do you think what came from that incident? How is it helping younger people now?
Um, I think I think I have seen young people um, realize what their rights are. I think I've seen young people um, realize that they have the right to be safe, that they have the right to hold institutions accountable, and I think that's my challenge to young people. And I'm really glad that you noted that this doesn't just happen to individuals who are femme identifying. This can happen to anybody at any point, and it can have a lasting impact on people. And I don't think people often realize that, because usually when someone is the victim of a crime, um, it's interesting when it's a crime like a robbery, or something else, let's just say, like people are like, oh, that's terrible, that happened to you. When it's a crime of a sexual nature, oftentimes you hear, well, what were you doing? What did you do? What were you wearing? Were you under the influence of alcohol? Like all of these things. And these are even conversations I had in my women's studies class. And when you check off the boxes, you're like, I was wearing pants and a sweatshirt, or I was wearing, or, no, I didn't have any alcohol in my system. No. And then they can't figure out, well, then why would somebody do that? I don't know. That's not for me to answer. So I think we're starting to see a shift even in our society where, and I hope we continue down that direction, where we don't ask the victim why they put themselves in that situation. And instead we ask the perpetrator, why did you do what you did? And rather than try and paint the victim in a negative light, to make you feel better, look at the perpetrator and go, why did you think that was okay? And why are you signing off on that kind of behavior? So for young people, I think what I've seen is they feel more open to acknowledging it, because it can be embarrassing. There's a shame attached to it. And this idea is that, yes, it is, but it shouldn't be the victim's embarrassment. It shouldn't be the victim's shame. And those are a lot of lessons that, that occurred once I personally hit rock bottom. And, I was a huge mental health advocate before, and I didn't know I could be a bigger mental health advocate after, but I am. And I recognize my privilege that I'm able to receive ongoing mental health support. And there are other victims of different crimes out there who do not have that ability. And I just hope that they have a support system in place to get them through it.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I can't imagine what it was like you said, the embarrassment, just feeling the way you felt and hitting a rock bottom. No one should have to be hitting a rock bottom, especially in their place of work. Guys, it's never okay to touch someone without their consent. Just be kind to one another, respect, it's the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I just don't understand why you'd want to hurt someone like that or think that type of behavior is all right. We need to stop. It needs to change, guys. Put your better foot forward.
And I think one of the challenges in our society, and I was just having this conversation with my son, and I've had this conversation in class as well, is you hear these phrases like, oh, it used to be, I'm going to tap that. Then it was, I'm going to hit that. Now it's, I'm going to smash that. Like, and it's not just the escalation of violence in the phrasing, but we're not even referring to a person as a person. They are an object. They are a that. And I think if people take a moment and humanize who they're about to put something upon, that maybe that might stop them from doing something that could have a profound impact on somebody's life. Because it doesn't, and talk to your moms, talk to your sisters, talk to your aunts, talk to women in your life, and talk to some men too, without judgment. And they will be able to tell you what has happened to them, when it has happened, and you might be shocked at how often it happens.
No, yeah, I am shocked. It happens so blindly. It happens so often. It's just brushed aside, and very disheartening, man. It's disheartening because I do have two sisters, and I wouldn't want that to happen to them. And I don't know. It's just it's such a crazy thing. And like I said, I think we just need to learn how to respect women better, respect just individuals better. Just keep your hands to yourself, that's it. Be professional, work, conduct yourself in a better manner,
Yeah.
You know right from wrong,
Yeah. And hold everybody to the same standard. And when I say that, I mean, if you look throughout society, some people are given a pass because of the job they hold or their title or how they're perceived. And it should be, if a wrong was committed, a wrong was committed. You know, whether they're in the spotlight in the movie industry, in, you know, the business world, whatever it might be. Yeah.
Definitely. Like I said, you're so brave for going what you went through, going on that podium and speaking your mind. I'm sure you inspired so many people. You inspired me. You inspired your women's studies class. You inspired men and women. You know, I could honestly say that because I feel that you've touched me, and I know you've touched other students' hearts. You are a gem, Miss Delgado. You know, believe me, you are one in a million, and I'm so glad that I got this opportunity to talk to you. And you're amazing.
Thank you, Mateo.
No worries, no worries. Definitely, I feel it. I feel it. So moving on a little bit, I definitely got a sad right there, but I feel like that needed to be addressed. Uh, Going back to the school year, this school year, when does it start? You know, when is your first class coming up?
First class is coming up on Wednesday, August 19th. I'm excited to see this new group. I just wish that they could embrace all the chaos of the classroom that others have had to endure. Um, so I'm going to have to be really creative. And I'm also mindful of the fact that school isn't it for them, especially in the midst of a pandemic. Many of them are taking care of their younger brothers and sisters or even nieces and nephews. Jobs are hard to come by, and some of them may have to work to keep a roof over their head, food in their family's stomachs, and clothes on their backs. And so just trying to make sure that they understand that being a student may very well not be their number one priority. And I have to know that and accept it because I want them to be successful.
Definitely. Are you still going to try to do the project where students come up with an invention and they do the video and they show the class and they have to sell
Yes.
this invention?
Yes.
That was my
And
favorite. That was my favorite project that I did.
oh my gosh, you know what? The minute you said that, we had a group. I should have, if I would have, if they could have traveled back in time, they could have given it to you. It's called Fushi Fresh. And so when you have bad gas, you drink it and everything's fresh and fine. So they could have given it to you back in middle school if they had built a time machine and
Oh
gone back
yeah,
then.
yeah. My partner. Do you remember? Do you remember what we made?
What
All right,
did
I
you
think we did.
make? What did you make?
We made the stem cells cream to where like.
Oh, it rejuvenated. Wait, was that
Yep.
the one? Yes.
Yeah. I was with Daniel Lopez, Hector Martinez, Macario Salcido.
That's right. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, I think not to toot our own horns, but you were like, we set the bar really high with that video.
I think you all did. You all, you know, I wish you all would take your ideas and then figure out how do we make them a reality, because I think some of you are sitting on some serious cash. But might as well go for it. Might as well go on Shark Tank and go, here's our product. Let's go.
I have a few listener questions that I asked from the Space Dog Instagram at
Okay.
Space Dog Pod. You guys should give it a follow at Space Dog Pod. There were some listener questions I did ask because I did let the audience know that you were going to come by. So this is a question from Efren Gonzalez. He asked, "What are your
Efrain.
what are your top 3 favorite books?" And he asked, "Top 3 favorite books, and what does it mean to have guided thinking instead of thinking normally?"
Ooh, okay. So right now I'm reading what I think is my new favorite book, and it's called Rage Becomes Her by Soraya Shamali. And I highly recommend it. It sounds like it would be this like man hating, whatever. But I think it really breaks down the challenges that women face in society. I've learned so much, like I'm already tagging the book to how I can bring it into the women's studies class. My second favorite book was one I had to read my senior year of high school. It was Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And my third favorite is Don Quixote. That was my senior year of college, because sometimes I feel like I do chase windmills, but it's okay. And then Efren's last question was about?
It was what is the difference between guided thinking and thinking normally? That's what I got from it. It's not exactly
Okay.
what he put, but that's kind of what I summed it up to
Wait.
be.
Um, Gosh, does this mean there's a right answer or a wrong answer to this? Now I feel like
I
I'm in
don't
the
think
hot
so.
seat. Okay. Um, so um, for me, when I think of guided thinking, I've really fallen into meditation, probably in the past year and a half, almost 2 years. It's an important part of my day. And so um, each day starts with a lesson um, based on the app that I use, and it guides me. And I can tap into this vault now of almost 2 years of lessons, so that when I face experiences that are challenging or overwhelming me, I'm guided in my thinking. Like, okay, what's my intended outcome, or what is this person seeking to get out of me? Is it a reaction or is it knowledge? Um, are they, doing this to agitate, or are they truly questioning, for the opportunity to learn and grow? And then in turn, I flip that on myself. Like, what's my motivation? What is it that I'm doing? And so I think for me, when I think of guided thinking, it's about being purposeful with my words and my actions.
Hmm, that's very interesting. I like that topic a lot, actually, because I've been trying to do guided thinking myself. I think it just helps with everything, like you said, meditation too. That helps so much. I think people should do it more often, just because it keeps you grounded and really just lets you lay out what you want to do in a day.
Yeah,
Definitely time for yourself.
yeah. You can set intentions for how you want to start your day. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another listener question said, what was your first impressions of Mateo as a student?
I think I even asked you, you have the same last name as somebody that I grew up with. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this his son? It wasn't, like, there was no, but so when you reached out to me, I'm like, I know who you are, Mateo. Like, I remember you. And so I think it's so great. Kind of like this feels like almost full circle, or I don't know. But you always had a smile, like you did, and you were positive, you were connected, you had your group in the class, like this bromance going, you were all connected. and
Yeah.
and I loved that, though, because I think oftentimes, like, guys are afraid to show that they're really good friends, or they have people that they can trust, and you all just didn't care. And I mean that in the best possible way. Like, you were authentic with each other. And that, from a women's studies perspective, from a gender studies perspective, I always took comfort in that. And I hope it's something that I see in my son as well. um, yeah, so that's what I remember.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. And honestly, I attribute that a lot to so much as athletics, wrestling, just because wrestling was it's a contact sport, and you're just with so many people. I was with a group of 20 plus guys and girls, and just we cried together. We bled together. Busted nose, teeth
Yes.
fell out. Busted teeth fell out. Cauliflower ears.
Yeah.
They've seen the worst of me, and it would just be weird if I just passed in the hallways and just didn't act like the way I was in the wrestling room. Just didn't act the way. And I like the way I was in the wrestling room, so I try to bring it out and just be normal in school, and just try to act like that way with everyone.
And I don't even know if you realize, like, what you just described, but I think it's really powerful, and I wish that people would embrace it but like what you described that transpired among you and your teammates was that you allowed each other to be vulnerable among yourselves. Like you had that safety net. And I think oftentimes a vulnerability is viewed as, oh, this negative thing, because that makes you weak. And I don't think it does. I think it makes you stronger because you recognize, this can happen, but I have this support system in place to guide me and carry me through. So I think I really like that a lot. And I'm grateful to hear you say that.
Yeah, those guys will forever be my brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
forever. That year, I'll always remember them, and they'll always have a place in my heart. Like, I can never forget that. Anyone that's trying to do athletics or thinking about it, debating it, am I good enough, thinking these things, do it. Believe in yourself. You will create so many memories with the team. It could be football, water polo, wrestling, tennis. It could be any sport, or join clubs. Do it. Don't sell yourself short. Try to make friends. You guys
Yeah.
can do it. Believe in yourself, guys.
I think that's really important to stress that, because it is like people need to know, especially in this day and age of technology, like you need to set it down and you need to connect, as we're sitting in front of a Zoom, but this is due to pandemic. But
Right.
you really do like need to find that time to disconnect from the technology so you can authentically connect with other human beings. And I think sports in some ways allows for that to happen, just as being a part of clubs or band or color guard. You build these relationships that allow you to have those experiences and those memories.
That's so funny. That's so funny because I came up with this theory out of high school. Um, you're in the best shape of your life during high school because let me tell you, I got out of high school. I wasn't walking as much. I wasn't walking to my periods. It's not just the wrestling and athletics. It's walking to the cafeteria, walking to the library, so the up the hills and Golden Valley, uh, walking everywhere. You're walking 24/7. What's it called? 7 to 3 o'clock.
Yeah,
Sometimes 6 if you're in athletics.
right.
Walking all day, every day till what, June?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing that year round. And then when you stop doing that and you're out of school, Miss Delgado, I got up to 200 pounds, Miss Delgado.
No,
Yeah, I
really?
got up to 200 pounds. I'm 170 right now. I got it down, but I was so unhealthy, man. So I have to like to tell myself I have to go for walks and I have to run and work out.
Yeah,
But man, I think you're in the best shape of your life. Just be in school in general. That's like so
yeah.
healthy for you.
And I think having those connections, I mean, I will just say like our first, I don't know, month and a half, it just feels like it's been a blur, but then it's been for forever. My kids, they love to cook. Their mom doesn't. Okay, I do not cook. I don't even know if you remember those stories. I do not cook.
Really?
If we're eating
Oh
out, it
man.
must have been my night to cook. My husband does a phenomenal job. My kids cook. They make cinnamon. My daughter makes cinnamon rolls from scratch. My son makes bread from,
Oh yeah, I did remember you tell us that.
okay, like really, like when we can't go out. So yeah, the walking part is really, really an important part, just for mental health purposes, for physical purposes, that movement, because there is so much time spent in front of a screen.
I want to transition into this thing I do towards the end of my show.
Okay.
It's called Would You Rather. So
Okay.
I'm gonna run you through a little. I had posted these on my Instagram too, so we do have some percentages, and
Okay.
so I'm gonna put you through some scenarios. So would you rather going on right now? So first one is: would you rather experience constant pain or a constant itch?
Constant itch.
Constant itch. I picked that myself too. And then the masses said 38% said pain and 62% said itch.
I'm
So
just saying.
I can't even
Keep
believe.
scratching
Yeah,
it.
I can't even. I wouldn't want to be in constant pain. Yeah.
No, labor was enough. All right,
All
next.
right. The second one. Would you rather never have a hot meal again or never have a cold drink again?
Never have a cold drink again.
Really?
Yeah.
I went with meals honestly because
Really?
I I had hired a personal trainer a while back, and the meals were kind of simple. They were like chicken or ground turkey, and if you're on the go and stuff like that, you kind of get used to eating it cold. So I'm totally fine with eating cold food, but a cold drink, like a cold glass of water, like I need that. I need that for
Oh,
me.
I'm not going to miss out on any of my husband's meals. They're like, oh, they're so good. Yeah, nope. And they're nice and they're hot. Yeah, nope. I'll take warm water.
Okay, for sure, for sure. So 56% said they'd rather have a cold meal, and 44% said drink. So it's pretty close.
Wow, that is.
All right. I know you're going to like this one.
Uh-oh.
Would you rather have In and Out or Shake Shack?
Shake Shack. Oh, that's a blast of the past. Yay. I miss Shake Shack. It has been since March 3rd. How sad is that? I know the
Really?
last time I had Shake Shack when I was in New York. Yes.
Oh, I've never experienced going to New York or having Shake Shack. Is it really that good? Because I
Oh,
remember you tell the class all the time, I'm getting Shake Shack. Like,
it's
I'll
so
go every day
good.
if I could.
I would. Yes. Between that and rolling donuts, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So I'm glad that, yeah, Shake Shack, yeah. Closest one, I think they're putting one in the San Jose airport, but
Oh,
otherwise
really?
otherwise it's LA.
Well, honestly, I'm a California boy, born or not born. I was raised here. Um, I love In and Out. You know, I go every time, all the time. And I hate to say it, but 92% said In and Out, and only 8% said Shake Shack.
Those 8% must have gotten an A in my class then, and the rest of you must have failed. Okay. That's like
Alrighty.
in and out's like liking the Giants, okay? Go Dodgers, all
Oh
right?
my god, that's the best. That's the best California's got to offer, and I
All
love it.
right.
I think a lot of people love it.
I know.
Um, last one, last one.
Okay.
Would you rather have your own theme song play every time you enter a room, or have a laugh track play every time you do something funny?
Oh, I want a theme song. Oh
Do you want
yeah,
a theme song?
I
How
do.
would it go? How would it
Um,
go?
well, I think it's the tub. I don't know. Do you know the tub thumping? I get knocked down, but I get up again.
I get knocked down, but I
But
get
I
up
get up
again.
again.
You're never gonna keep me down.
Yes.
That'd be your theme?
That would be my theme. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I think I would want a laugh track playing like after everything, every time I did something funny, like dropped a pencil, like laugh track, or like I said something funny. So that way, I think I have a sense of comic,
Yeah.
some type of a sense, but the laugh track would help me be like, yeah, you have a sense of humor.
See, and I would worry that it would always be silent, and I'd be looking around. I thought that was funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Like I'm funny, all right. You don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. Well, Annie, I just want to thank you so much for coming on and doing this for me. When I emailed you, I didn't know if you were gonna get back to me, but I am so glad that you got back, and I'm glad that you decided to do this podcast with me. It means a lot.
Mateo, I'm still floored. And I'm serious. If you're like, this just wasn't put it in the can, we'll never know. It'll all be okay. I just thank you. And for me as a teacher to see you doing what makes you happy, that's what it's about. So and to now get to be a part of this, it's like the dream. So thank you for having me, in your space. And yeah, it's been incredible. And you did such a phenomenal job. And I'm grateful because you put me at ease with some really challenging conversation.
Thank you. I'm glad that you felt comfortable, and I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself. Yeah, I really can't express how grateful I am. This has been so amazing. Like I said, when I thought of this 2 years ago, I knew I wanted to have you on, and I'm just so glad that I got to accomplish that and talk to you. And I'm glad that past students and future students will be able to listen to this. And I hope they can really take something from this and really like learn and listen and try and see you a different light. Hey, maybe they could watch this, and maybe your 2020 students can know who you are from this.
Yeah, that would be great. And I thank you for this opportunity. And, hello to all of my old or my former
Yeah, what do you want to
students.
say? You know,
Yeah.
I'll give you the last.
Oh,
What do you want to say? I'll give you, yeah,
no free
say anything.
riders. I'm like, no free
Yeah, there we
riders.
go.
There you go. Try Shake Shack. Once you do, you'll love it more than In and Out. Always go Dodger Blue and do like Mateo's doing. Do what makes you happy. Do what brings you joy, and don't look back. And yes, there will be challenges, but it's worth it if you're doing what makes you happy.
Absolutely. Alrighty, well, I just want to say good luck to the 2020 students. I know it's difficult right now, but you guys will be able to get through it. Pay attention, you know. Take women's studies, take Miss Delgado's
Yes.
classes, you know. They'll be fun. They'll be fun, you know. Try different things, try athletics,
Yeah.
you know, like do what makes you happy, as Miss Delgado's put it. Once again, Miss Delgado, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing.
Thank you, Mateo. Thank you so much. Have a great one.
Thank you. Alrighty, Space Dog fam. We're out of here.